So thank you for checking out my podcast. And if you're wondering how I record my podcast, well, I actually use Anchor, which is a fantastic tool, free resource to use. But if you're new to podcasting like I have been, it really helps you to get started without worrying about editing and doing all the sort of hard work yourself. It does it all for you. If you haven't used it, it's probably the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain a few tips for you. It's free, which is fantastic. You don't have to pay anyone to edit your podcast or pay for software. There's loads of tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from your phone and computer. So again, you don't need any special equipment. So if you're looking to start a podcast and you're sort of on a budget, it's a perfect way of starting. Um, the best thing which I found, it helps to distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more hosts that um, listen to podcasts. The best thing for me was that, because trying to distribute it from another software was really confusing, and all the technical know-how which I don't have was done for me by Anchor. So you can just, once you click the podcast, say where you want it delivered to, and it will do all the work for you, which is fantastic. And also, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. So ads like you listen to on this one, this is an ad just talking about Anchor. You can get a little bit of commission from that, which is great. So extra bit of money in your pocket from doing what you love. And I have no problem doing this advert for Anchor, because ultimately it has allowed me to create a podcast. So if you're passionate about something, I'm going to talk about it, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So for me, I would recommend Anchor 100% if you're looking to start to do a podcast. And obviously then you can, elaborate and get better with your podcast, but you can just get better sound equipment. But all the software you need to do a podcast on the go or at home on a computer is all from Anchor. So for me, it's the best tool I've ever used when it comes to starting a podcast. So definitely, if you're interested in starting your own podcast, whether that is on health or fitness or travel, just pick something that you're passionate about and talk about it, then download the free Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hello and welcome to the Plant-Based Revolution podcast with your host, myself, Neil Damrell from My Lifestyle Coach. I want to thank you again for listening and taking the time out of your precious day, spending it with me, just to talk about the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle, mindset, nutrition and fun topics along the way. Thank you again for everyone that's been with me from the start, and the listeners are creeping up every week, which is great, and I'd love to get your feedback. So as I say always, please pop over to iTunes and lend us a review on iTunes. I'd love to get your feedback on how you've been enjoying the show so far, and if there's any topics that you'd like to cover, then feel free to send us a message and we can see if we can put those topics on the show in the coming weeks. And also, if you do lend us a review on iTunes, I'll give you a shout out on the next podcast. So always much appreciated. So today's podcast, just going to discuss 14 top tips to help you make going plant-based easy. So a lot of people, when they adjust to a new diet, it can be quite extreme. A lot of the time they struggle to maintain it, and also you tend to yo-yo a lot of the time. And for me, adopting more of a plant-based diet, it should be quite straightforward and slowly adding in goodness to your diet, so eventually all the bad things will eventually go away. So not going into the benefits of a vegan diet, where a lot of people confuse, or I find that a lot of people say a plant-based diet is a vegan diet, where I think that is very, very misrepresentation of a plant-based diet. So a vegan diet will exclude all animal products whatsoever. A vegetarian will just exclude meat. For me, a plant-based diet is not excluding any of those products whatsoever. It's just adding in more plant-based meals to your diet. maybe consuming at least one good plant-based meal a day. That will help increase your fruit and vegetable intake, your antioxidant intake, your vitamin minerals intake, your fibre intake. It will also be beneficial for the planet as well, so you're not going to be consuming high quantities of meat. And if you are going to choose some meat and dairy, then you're maybe going to have that less often, but you're going to have good quality sources of meat, farm reared, not mass produced, factory farmed meats. So the quality and the animal welfare is definitely going to be much better for the animal. It's going to be better for the environment, and also you're going to get more quality. You spend a little bit more obviously on the meat itself, but it will be better quality than a lot of meat that you find on the supermarket shelves that pump through of water to try and bulk it out. But generally, they're very cheap cuts of meat, or kind of factory farmed, mass produced cuts of meat. So to start with, I'm just going to give you some top tips. Like I said, as I mentioned, taking the plunge into a plant-based diet can be quite scary, can be confusing, and the biggest thing that I want to highlight with these 14 top tips is just simple strategies that you can do to try and implement and adjust to more of a plant-based diet in a sustainable way. So no extremes, just slowly adding in the good things I've said before, and eventually the bad things will go away. So top tip number 1 is sign up for some support. So the best journeys and adventures begin, and once they've begun, it's important to have some support. So I run a 5-day plant-powered challenge once or twice a month to help my listeners and to help anybody who wants to come on board to adopt more of a plant-based diet. So you can choose whenever you like to sign up. There will be links to the plant-powered challenge in the show notes. If you haven't managed to get on the latest one, which is running this week, then you just get onto a waiting list, and so you know when the next one comes up. But it's a very good 5-day challenge that will help you adjust to more of a plant-based diet. So the important thing with this is that you'll receive daily emails about little challenges to do each day. You also have the access to a private Facebook group community where I'll be posting regular videos and content and interacting with everybody that's on the challenge to provide as much support as possible throughout the 5 days. And throughout the 5 days there'll be a little challenge. You get a free cheat sheet to help you structure and adjust to eating more plant-based meals, and a few fun challenges that you have to do each day to help hold you accountable. So if you are interested, like I said, in the show notes there'll be more information about the 5-day plant powered challenge for you. So tip number 2 is following a plan. So following a plan throughout the 5-day plant powered challenge, we offer you a plan. The plan will be 5 days, but broken down into simple tasks each day. So you only have to focus on one simple thing to do each day. You don't have to worry about focusing on trying to plan your week out ahead of schedule. There'll be a meal plan and starter kit, like I said, provided to you at the beginning, so you can have a read up and you can see what's going on beforehand. If you want to buy any extra meals or recipes, and you can do, but it's not going to be as difficult and as comprehensive as that. It will be just focusing on adjusting what you're currently eating and adding in more goodness through plant-based sources. So definitely following a meal plan will help you. It will save you time, it'll be less stressful, and it also helps you to budget, so you can eat well on a budget, rather than feeling you've got to grab whatever is convenient for you and spend a lot of money on, a lot of the time, overpriced healthy products, which I find is on the market. So disencouraging people to actually eat healthy because they are marking those products up. Tip number 2, so when I'm trying to plant-based the foods that you already have. So for me, instead of having maybe a meat burger, I'll make myself my own sweet potato bean burger, which is a favourite of mine, and I can have that instead of a normal burger. Or you can replace your mince with some your corn mince, which is really good, low in saturated fat and still loads of flavour as well. So simple swaps, which we'll discuss with you throughout the 5-day plant bar challenge as well. So little things like that you want to focus on in terms of trying to add more plant-based meals into your diet, rather than thinking about how you can change your diet completely. Just think about how you can have simple food swaps. Again, for a vegetarian pizza instead of a meat pizza, if you go out for a meal in a restaurant, for example, there's little things that you can just try to help encourage you to consume more plant-based meals on a regular basis. So, tip number 4. So, this is going on a local product hunt. So, like I said, talking about plant-based meals, maybe going for a vegan pizza. You maybe want to see what other options, if you are going to have a pizza night with your friends, what options are there in your supermarket that provide a vegan or a vegetarian pizza that is just consuming less meat, and just see what options there are. There are more and more options every day now that you can consume more plant-based meals in a convenient way. There are obviously those aisles with all your plant-based sauces, plant-based cheeses and stuff like that, which are sometimes good alternatives, not always good alternatives. I'm not going to go into detail about why I don't think there are good alternatives at the moment, because like I said at the start, maybe consuming good quality meat as opposed to lots of poor quality meat is going to be better for you. And that would be the same for cheese. So if you do like a bit of cheese, I don't advise to have a lot of cheese, but if you can have a little bit of it, then enjoy good quality cheese, but just a little bit less of, and you'll probably feel a lot better. So, but also other alternatives. So if you want a treat, I'm a big fan of the vegan ice creams that are on the market now. Our Price Soya do some really good ones. I'm not promoting them, not being paid to promote them. Just the one product that I've tried so far, and they are really, really tasty. And for me, I've not really had much dairy, and I don't really have much dairy. So when I do have quite a rich ice cream, I can get a bit of a stomach upset from it. So I tend to stick away from the vegan, the normal ice creams, and go for the vegan ice creams, which I tend to enjoy a lot more and feel a lot better for it as well. So, tip number 5. So, venture online. So, as we all know, there are loads and loads of products online that you can buy. A lot of people buy their shopping online from mainstream stores or places like Ocado. Also, other products like Vegan Kind that specialise in delivering you healthy vegan products to your door, which are more snacky options. So if you're looking for healthier or vegan options in terms of the snacks, then Vegan Kind are very, very good. Not used them myself, again, not promoting them, but if you are looking for convenience where you don't have to go search around the shops, depending on your area, because obviously a lot of the time, depending on the supermarket or the area you live in, there'll be more choices or less choices depending on the market share that they're trying to promote. So definitely venture online. Amazon, eBay, there's some awesome great products that you can buy on there as well that will give you some vegan snacks or vegan alternatives that you can buy, as well as you can definitely type in sort of vegan products in Google, and I'm sure there'll be loads of options that you can buy from health food shops that are online as well. So venture online if you're looking for alternatives, instead of searching around your supermarket if they are limited in your choice as well, especially if you're like in more rural areas, as I've mentioned before. So excuse me. So number 6 is research the restaurant area. So if you are looking to go more plant-based, and you just want another alternative to eating out on a regular basis, then maybe search what vegan or vegetarian restaurants are in your area. So like I said, you not necessarily have to go vegan, but by going to a vegan restaurant, you're going to consume a plant-based meal, generally, which is going to have no meat, obviously. So it's maybe another alternatives that you can have to your regular steak night. If you go to a steakhouse as a treat, then maybe look at someone else that you can maybe have as a treat and go to a vegan restaurant to see what great alternatives they have there. Some places specialise in, the vegan restaurants I've been to, they focus on trying to make the vegan meals taste like meat, which for me, I'm not a big fan of, because, if you're going to have meat, just go and have good quality meat from a restaurant. If I go to a steakhouse, then I'm going to enjoy a good steak. I don't, that's probably the only time I have steak is when I go out to a restaurant. So those alternatives I'm not really a big fan of personally, but that's only my personal viewpoint on that. It might not be the same for you, but definitely go searching for vegan restaurants in your area. It is a great experience to try a few local independent shops as well, and you'll find that a lot of vegan restaurants are more independent. There's less mainstream, as you would do if you're going to have your Nando's, for example. So experiencing something that's less mainstream, more local produced, you're supporting your local economy by supporting the independent traders as well, which is really good. And you tend to have more of a kind of homey atmosphere in a lot of these places because of that experience. One of my favourite places, I can't remember the name of it now, but there's a place in Totnes. So I'm from Devon originally, and a place in Totnes is quite a hippie place, but they have some really good vegan restaurants, and it is definitely, if you're in that area, then I would definitely recommend to visit that one of these places that that's it, I found it now. So it's called Willow. Every time I've been there, there's really good home cooked vegan meals, vegetarian meals. It's a vegetarian restaurant. It's quite small, does get quite busy, but if you're down in Devon and you're visiting, passing through Totnes, then I definitely recommend it. It is a fantastic place to go, and I've thoroughly enjoyed every meal I've experienced there so far. So yeah, so have a search, see what's available in your area by doing a restaurant search. Number 7, I've mentioned this before in a previous podcast, but building a good supportive network. So it's important that the people around you are quite interested in the more of a plant-based movement, so you can help you cook healthier at home, but also think about groups that you can join. As I mentioned before, my 5-day plant-based challenge provides a community that helps to support everybody in a friendly, non-judgemental way. We're just trying to encourage everybody to have more of a plant-based lifestyle in a sustainable, healthy way as well. Other ways, you can maybe chat to your local health food shop, your vegan-friendly restaurant, maybe other social media groups that you might be able to find online, just to get some support in terms of different recipe choices. But just be mindful. I've been on a few communities online from a health perspective. There's a lot of miscommunication on there, and a lot of people can maybe get caught up in what other people's opinions are in terms of what they would say is healthy when they've got no nutritional background whatsoever. So they might be saying this is not healthy because it's a vegan, not a vegan meal or whatever. Where for me, as being educated as a nutritionist, I feel that a good scientific basis to everything that I'm discussing is important, as opposed to just because it's vegan or not vegan, it's going to be unhealthy. And a lot of people think when they tend to go to a vegan diet, that's why I tend to more promote a plant-based diet, is that a vegan diet, a lot of people can feel social pressure to maintain that vegan lifestyle, and when they don't have a vegan meal, feel quite guilty about it. So I think just be cautious of the groups you join, and make sure you get a lot of support from the host rather than to begin with. And if the people around you are quite well informed, then that should be okay. But just be mindful of who else is in the group, because a lot of people can be quite maybe over passionate, and not that passion maybe cannot be so supportive in some ways, which I've found. Tip number 8, sorry. So this is talking about animals and just being conscious of animals around you. So for me, yes, I'd still eat meat, but one of the meats that I don't really have at all now is lamb. Main reason because every time I go cycling in Devon, or I go cycling in the countryside, especially during lambing season, in the early springtime in the UK, I see loads of lambs running around, and they are so gorgeous and cute. I absolutely love them. And I think, how can I eat one of these animals, because they are so adorable, I even saw a lamb on TV when I was younger, and thought about eating it and started crying because I was upset that I'd, inflict pain on this beautiful animal. So, if you want to have a bit more of a connection with the food you consume, and then maybe go and visit a farm, or definitely get out in the country and experience these animals, because they're still living beings. They have feelings. They it's because we just see meat in the supermarket. There's almost a detachment from what it is to from what it is as an animal compared to when it's on our plate, because obviously we don't see the process. If you had to go and kill the animal itself and then cook the meat, and take all the hair off it, all the process it has to go through, I think it's going to be harder for you to do that than it would be just to kind of pick it from a shelf in a supermarket and cook it up at home. So having that attachment and feeling the the process and learning about the process a bit more, I think, is very important. So don't be afraid to maybe visit a farm, or just get out in the country and experience animals in their wild, and just appreciate them as well, because animals have feelings, and it's like I said before, if you had to go and kill that animal, it'd probably prove a lot more challenging. So you'd probably feel that you would have less meat and maybe look for more plant-based choices. So yeah. So lambs, I do love lambs, lovely. Not to eat though. Number 9, so find some good plant-based alternatives. So for me, when I first started cutting out dairy, I actually just went to soy milk, and I've been on that ever since, for about 18 years now, or 14 years, sorry, yeah. It's something that I find is really good for me. I have unsweetened, so not ploughed full of sugar. I tend to just go for the basics that I find in the supermarket because they're very cheap and affordable, and I don't really tend to think about going for the overpriced products that you may find in the supermarket. But everybody has their own tastes and flavours, so try different ones that you want to find on the market. There's other alternatives like almond milk, oat milk that you can try. I know my mum has switched to oat milk, and that tends to go very well with tea and coffee. I'm not a tea or coffee drinker, so I wouldn't know how they do mix, when you're having tea and coffee with your normal milk. Sometimes the plant-based alternatives can curdle a little bit. So just try a few and see what will work for best for you. And it's another good way of just slowly adding in more plant-based meals and cutting out and just reducing your dairy intake as well by having those simple food swaps as well, which is good. Again, look for more vegan products as well. So a lot of products actually are vegan, and you'd be surprised that they are vegan. Oreos, hobnobs, some sort of crisp packets are vegan. However, I would recommend that just because they're a vegan doesn't mean that you can go and eat loads of vegan products and think because it's vegan it's going to be healthier. So I think a lot of people, that's why I say a plant-based diet is much more sustainable, because for some reason a lot of people think I am a vegan, so if I have vegan meals all the time I'm going to be healthier than if I wasn't a vegan. However, their diet probably hasn't changed that much. They still might be consuming quite a lot of processed foods. If you're going to eat Oreos and donuts, hobnobs, they are not healthy foods, are they? They're going to be a treat that you should have maybe once in a while, not because it's a vegan, I can eat as much as I want. So even if you are having vegan healthy snacks, you may be consuming too much of it, which could lead to weight gain, and also it could be a lot of sugar and a lot of saturated fat in that product, even though it is a vegan product. So too much of a good thing is still not going to be good for you, and anything that's in a packet is processed, so something like that you want to have less of, and try and go for more healthy snacks such as a handful of nuts, some fruit or veg, definitely. But yeah, if you are looking to have more plant-based alternatives, just be mindful of those kind of vegan products on the market as well, I would say. So So tip number 11. So if you are looking to cut down on your plant-based, looking to increase your plant-based meals, you want to maybe look at what's in the ingredients. Just think about your food labelling and read the products on the back of the packet, just to see what's in the product, and see what can be healthier. And that's why I would say try and pick anything with less than 5 ingredients in it. Anything with more than 5 ingredients tends to be a processed meal made in a factory. So if it's more than 5 ingredients, you'll find that there are probably better alternatives that maybe you could make at home on your own, or try and stay away from. So just be conscious on that one. Let's go on to the next one. So number 12 is looking at your other cheese alternatives if you are looking at cutting down on the cheese. For me, I mentioned this earlier, but a lot of the cheese products that are vegan, I've compared them to normal cheese, and they are higher in saturated fat, and because they are mass produced and factory produced, you're not just proper cheese. If you had a free range cheese, from a free range cow, the amount of rubbish that's in there, for me, I would say go for a normal cheese and have less of it and don't have it as often, rather than these manufactured cheeses. Anything that's made in a factory generally we want to stay away from. So if you're consuming a lot of vegan cheese, yes, it might be vegan, doesn't mean it's going to be healthier. So cut down on your cheese, but go for good quality cheese. That would be my option for you. Cheese is a treat, maybe once or twice a month. That's as much as I would recommend to have it, really. Just because it's very, very high in saturated fat, and you are going to get enough protein in your diet, trust me. So don't worry about if you are cutting down on your meat and dairy products. It's not going to be an issue. So, final tip is just be conscious of thinking long term. A lot of people, that's why I say a vegan diet is so extreme that we should generally avoid it. I think I've never really been fully vegan. I've excluded meat and dairy for a number of months, but I hate people saying that you're a vegan, because that feels like you've got a label on your head, and if you do veer off track, you're going to be criticised. So just adopting more of a plant-based diet is what I focus on, having more meat, more plant-based meals, and meat and dairy every now and then. But if you do have meat and dairy, just enjoy it and don't worry about it. It's not going to be the end of the world. And if you are consuming less meat and dairy than you were before, you are going to feel the health benefits. It's going to be better for the planet, so you are doing your bit. So I think generally I always recommend 80% of the time should be healthy foods, plant-based, and 20% of the time can be meat and dairy. So maybe 1 or 2 meals, 2 or 3 meals a week that are going to be meat or dairy based. Maybe if you're having some chicken, I would have some every now and then. I'd consume, I would have that with a load of vegetables on my plate. So I'm bulking out the majority of my plate with vegetables, as opposed to meat, as you would do. A lot of steakhouses might have like a steak the size of a plate. So think about that. Don't criticise yourself, and just think about long term and think how you can add those benefits into your diet on a long term basis. And that's what I've done over the last 14 years. It's been a gradual process, but I've always kind of improved year to year, and eventually it becomes a lifestyle change. So you find that you will become comfortable with it, and that's just the way you eat without even thinking about it. So yeah, that would be my final tip on adopting more of a plant-based diet, and simple tips in which ways you can do that. So hopefully this podcast has been helpful for you guys. Remember at the start I mentioned about my 5-day plant-based challenge. So if that's something you would like to jump on board with, I'll be posting a link in the show notes so you can check that out. There will be one again starting maybe in a couple of weeks' time. So I'd love to have you on board. If you do graduate from that as well, you can come straight into the plant-based community, where I just continue to provide support in adopting more of a plant-based lifestyle, without any judgment and no vegan or sort of stigma attached to it in that way. So yeah, if that's something you are keen to do, then click on the link in the show notes and it'll take you to the 5-day Plant Power Challenge. And if you do have any questions about anything, then feel free to get in touch, and you can message me on Instagram at My Lifestyle Coach, or get hold of me on Facebook at My Lifestyle Coach, or you can email me at hello@mylifestylecoach.uk, and I'd love to speak to you and see how you're getting on with the show. Hopefully you're enjoying the show, and if you've got any comments, positive or negative, I'd love to hear from them, because I want to improve on the show for you guys, improve the content. We've got some more guests coming up in the future, which is exciting. We're looking forward to sharing that with you. And yeah, if you do have any other questions, please reach out. I'd love to speak to all the listeners and see how you're getting on, enjoying the show. But thank you very much for listening today, taking the time out of your precious day to spend that with me, and we'll see you again next time.